Let's explore callback functions and understand the traditional patterns associated with them, including a concept known as callback hell. Callback functions are essentially functions that are passed as arguments to other functions. These callback functions are designed to be executed at a later time, often after the completion of an asynchronous operation or a specific event. Here's a basic example of a callback function in action. We define a function called greetUser, which takes two arguments, name and callback. Inside greetUser, we first log a greeting message to the console using the provided name. Then we invoke the callback function. Next, we define another function called showWelcome, which simply logs a welcome message to the console. Finally, we use the greetUser function with the name John and pass the showWelcome function as the callback. When greetUser is executed, it will first print hello John and then execute the showWelcome function, which prints welcome to our app. Asynchronous callbacks are commonly used when dealing with operations that don't happen instantly, such as reading files. In this example, we use the FS module, which is the file system module in Node.js, to read the content of a file named data.txt. We call the readFile method, providing the file name, encoding type, which is UTF-8, and a callback function. This callback function takes two arguments, error, which represents an error if one occurred, and data, which contains the file content if the operation was successful. Inside the callback, we check if an error exists. If so, we log the error to the console and exit the function using the return statement. Otherwise, we log the file content to the console. The traditional callback pattern often follows an error-first convention. This means that the callback function expects the first parameter to be an error object, which will be null if no error occurred, and the second parameter to be the successful result of the operation. So the structure looks like callback with error as the first argument and result as the second argument. If the first parameter error is not null, it indicates that an error occurred during the operation. If the first parameter is null, it means that the operation was successful, and the second parameter will contain the result. Callback hell refers to a situation where you have multiple nested callbacks, creating a deeply indented and hard-to-read code structure. This often happens when dealing with multiple asynchronous operations that depend on each other. The code becomes difficult to understand and maintain due to the excessive nesting, resembling a pyramid-like structure, sometimes referred to as the Pyramid of Doom. Let's look at an example of callback hell in action. Here we have a function called getData, which simulates fetching data. Inside the initial getData call, we nest another getData call, and inside that, another one, and so on. Each getData call depends on the previous one, creating a deeply nested structure. This pattern is what we call the Pyramid of Doom, and it can quickly become unmanageable as the number of nested callbacks increases. Finally, after all the data is retrieved, we call the processData function to process all the data. Callback hell introduces several problems. Firstly, it makes the code hard to read and understand due to the deep nesting. Secondly, it becomes difficult to maintain the code, as any changes may require modifying multiple levels of nested callbacks. Thirdly, error handling becomes complex, as you need to handle errors at each level of the nested callbacks. Fortunately, there are solutions to alleviate callback hell. One popular solution is to use promises, which provide a more structured way to handle asynchronous operations. Another solution is to use async or await, which builds on top of promises and allows you to write asynchronous code that looks and behaves more like synchronous code. Additionally, you can use named functions instead of anonymous functions to improve code readability and make it easier to debug. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit CodeLucky.com for more such useful content.